Hey everyone, I'm Majiin and welcome into World Tour Weekly, your one-stop shop for all competitive flesh and blood news. Pre-release weekend is in the books and the US Nationals at Vegas is happening this following weekend, so today we're going to go over lessons learned in Limited and what I expect for the Classic Constructed format. Let's get into it. Players are loving the High Seas Limited format and it's easy to see why. With multiple archetypes per hero, incredibly intricate gameplay, and tons of high-impact decisions to make every single turn, High Seas Limited has easily been my favorite draft set that's ever been released. If you haven't gotten the chance to try it out yet, I highly recommend heading down to your local game store and trying it out yourself. We didn't have any events to cover over the last weekend, and with National Season coming up, I feel like we should spend a little bit more time talking about the Limited format. So today, I'm going to focus on 3 things that you need to focus on if you want to succeed at High Seas Limited. Number 1 is playing around Treasure Island. The High Seas macro completely changes how the entire game is played. Each hero has a very powerful ability that costs gold to activate. If you're able to hit your opponent and take the gold from Treasure Island, you've now unlocked your hero's ability and can use that to push further advantage. A good example of this would be Puffin making cogs every turn to allow her guns to activate, or letting her double crank and draw a card when she plays something like Goldwing Turbine. That's not the only way that gold can give you an advantage though. Being able to draw a card and put a blue in your pitch zone can help you get full value off cards with the high tide mechanic like Battalion Bark or Swiftwater Sloop. Have too much gold though and you'll unlock powerful cards like the Gold Hunter cycle for your opponent. They can even steal your gold with cards like Mutiny on the Battalion Bark. The importance of Treasure Island makes cards with natural breakpoints like 7 or 4 power even more impactful than they normally would be. The flip side of this is since blocking breakpoints is so vital, equipment and floor blocks are even more powerful. There are a few cards that can interact with Treasure Island without needing to hit, like the Expedition cycle. I would encourage you to think hard about whether or not you want to use their ability before casting them. If you're confident that you can get a hit through, then by all means load it up. But if you get blocked out and in return can't stop your opponent's attacks, you might just end up giving them more gold instead. Alright, number 2 is to build towards your hero's plan. I know that this one seems a little bit obvious, but hear me out. I mentioned before that each hero has different archetypes that they can build towards. For example, Marlin can play a more red-heavy, fast, and aggressive build with Red Spine Manta. She can also play a slower, overpower-focused, more blue-heavy strategy using Hammerhead Harpoon Cannon. If you're building Red Spine Marlin, you're probably going to prioritize zero-cost arrows and a lot of go-again attacks. On the other hand, Hammerhead Marlin doesn't actually have to register any arrows at all. She probably will, but she doesn't have to. The point being that just because a card is generally good for your class doesn't mean it's actually good for your deck. Dry Powder Shot can be an absolutely massive turn ender for decks that can put it face up into their arsenal easily, but it isn't nearly as good in Hammerhead decks that don't have ways to easily load arrows. Is it obvious that I played Marlin at my pre-release yet? This can massively affect your pick order and how you value cards. Instead of thinking this is one of the top Marlin commons and I always pick it over X, Y, and Z, you need to be thinking of what your deck is trying to do and how this card fits into that plan. The final thing that I think you should focus on for High Seas Limited is the second cycle. Games can easily go long enough that you'll make it back to your pitch deck, so it's important that you actually pitch something to do. With a large amount of cards that care what's in your pitch, like Battalion Bark, and the amount of cards that care what's on the top of your deck, like Saltwater Swell, pitching purposefully is going to be a large part of mastering this format. It's easy to write off dying to a late game overpower or something that's out of your control, but what if you saw it get pitched? Maybe you could have blocked a little bit more defensively and had a life buffer. Maybe you could have pitched a blocking card. What I'm trying to say is that it's not just your pitch deck that matters, it's also your opponent's. With Treasure Island, you might find yourself in a spot in the late game with a pretty good amount of gold. If you set up your pitch deck correctly, you can use that gold to churn through your deck quickly and have a massive pop-off turn. I've had turns where I've cracked 5 gold to send 2 sloops and a Battalion Bark at my opponent to win the game out of nowhere. But if you don't pitch purposefully, it's just as easy for you to crack a bunch of gold and then send 3 power at your opponent. It'll be interesting to see what kind of strategies players use to take advantage of the 3 things I mentioned. I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone comes up with during National Season. Alright, that's enough talk about Limited. Let's talk Classic Constructed on today's Metagame Minute. Okay, let's speculate about the meta. If I had to guess the most represented decks at US Nationals, it would probably look something like this. Florian, still the most represented deck. He's a deck with a proven track record, and the mid-range plan didn't really lose a lot to the bans. People are also comfortable playing him, which I think is going to affect total turnouts because we don't have a lot of time to prepare for this tournament. The less practice you need to get up to speed on your deck is the more time that you can spend practicing draft. I expect the deck to perform pretty well, but not crush the field or anything. He's a very safe deck with a solid track record, and I don't expect that to change now. Going to cheat a bit for the second most represented, but I think it's going to be the assassin class as a whole. Players seem to be pretty high on Arachne Marionette, and Slippy has been seeing more and more play since Pro Tour London. New is another deck that a lot of players have practice on and feel comfortable bringing, so I also expect her to be well represented. In fact, if it wasn't for her less than stellar Florian matchup, I would probably put her as the second most represented just on her own. Okay, underneath the assassins, I predict we're going to see a good amount of the Draconic heroes, namely Syndra and Fang. Syndra boasts a pretty good Florian matchup and probably makes things a little bit difficult for anyone looking to bring a new hero. With the limited amount of time that we have to prepare for the event, it's not super likely that the new decks are incredibly well tuned. Aggressive strategies like Redline Syndra can really take advantage of those inefficiencies. Fang has been on the up and up the entirety of ProQuest season. With his strong aggressive lines and his very powerful suite of equipment, it can be a tough matchup for people looking to play the value game. He's pretty easy to keep up with in the early game, but once he hits his 3 field team milestone, it can be a lot more difficult. After these heroes, I think we're going to see a really good mix of the rest of the field. Lots of diversity, including Wizards, Prism, and even some of the new heroes. As far as how the decks actually perform, I expect Azalea to do pretty well. The deck was already strong before, and now that we're getting a couple more Ranger cards and High Seas, it's hard for me to imagine her getting any worse. Gravy Bones has been moving up in my estimation as players refine the deck more and more. I still don't think US Nationals will be his breakout event, but I absolutely would not be surprised to see a few players do very well with him. As far as the other new heroes go, I don't expect players to do extremely well with Marlin because with the limited prep time, I think people might default to the safer Azalea pick, at least until players have more time to refine the decks. Puffin, on the other hand, is a bit of a mystery to me. I think she has a lot of potential to be very strong, but everything I put together doesn't work out very well. She is definitely one of the heroes that I'll be keeping an eye on for national season though. What do you think? Is there something I missed? Is there a hero I'm undervaluing? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, now that we've discussed the meta for a bit, let's talk about the card of the week. Today's card of the week is something that I've been really impressed with in Limited and could totally see it making its way into Constructed. That card is Golden Tipple. At first, it seems like a nice value piece for Gravy Bones and Marlin, but the more I've played the card, the more I've really come to appreciate it. Not only does it keep the gold flowing, but it also gives you a free card when you discard a Golden Harpoon or an ally. Creating a gold token also lets you activate Gold Baited Hook in Classic Constructed without worrying about it being destroyed. The blue version also lets you cast allies after, which can be a very powerful 2-card hand with something like Rigor Mortis. I also might be overvaluing it a bit because I love drawing cards so much. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what everyone else thinks during the Nationals tournament. Speaking of, if you happen to find yourself at Vegas for the US Nationals event, I'll be there, so if you see me, make sure to come up and say hi. I'll probably be playing some wizard. We have 3 good ones right now, so I feel a little spoiled for option. Anyways, I am really looking forward to this event. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what players are able to cook up using the new High Seas cards. I also imagine players are going to be watching this one pretty closely to see what they should expect for their own Nationals events. If you aren't going to be at the event, make sure you tune in to the live stream at June 6th to root on all your favorite heroes and players. Thank you for watching. I'm Majiin, and I'll see you next time on World Tour Weekly.